To practice while loops, we're gonna play a game called Snakes and Ladders. Well, we're really not gonna play it, but we're gonna set up a code in order for snakes and ladders to work correctly. So here's the rules. The board has 25 squares and is aimed to land on a beyond square 25. Each turn you roll a six-sided dice and move by the number of squares, following the horizontal path indicated by the dotted arrow above. If your turn ends at the bottom of a ladder, you move up to the ladder. If your turn ends at the head of a snake, you move down to the snake. Seems simple, right? Let's get started. For a quick note, a while loop starts by evaluating a single condition. If the condition is true, a set of statements is repeated until that condition becomes false. Now let's get started with a blank playground. And I have the game board here so I can kind of code and show you what I'm coding about. Now the game board is represented by an array of integer values. Its size is based on constants called final square, which is used to initialize the array and also to check for a when condition later in the example. The board is initialized with 26 zeros integers, not 25. One each of index 0 through 25, so 0 counts. So let's start by creating the final square that I was talking about. So final square equals to 25. And this 25 comes by the 25 board pieces. And let's create a variable called the board. And this board is going to equal to integer repeating, parentheses repeating, 0, and count is final square plus 1. Okay, now the next thing we're going to do is we're going to create a way that, like for example, if you roll a dice and it lands on 3, that means you get to go up to 11. So we're going to make a format that since it's 3, you're going to add plus 8 to get you to 11. The same goes for if you land on 14, you're going to go minus 10 for 4. So while I'm coding it, you're going to kind of understand why I'm coming up with these board values. So let's start by the ladder values. So board 03, so if it lands on board 3 equals to plus 8, board 06 right here, that means it equals to, that's 9, or that's 11, plus 11, board 9, that equals to plus 9, because the ladder here goes to 18. And last but not least, board 10 equals to plus 2. So I'm not going to show the board so we can kind of quickly code, but we're going to do the same for the snakes. So board 14 equals to negative 10. And looks like we're missing an equal sign. Let's correct that real quick. Okay, so board 19, where we have the head of a snake, is equal to minus 11. Board 22 equals to minus 02. And board 24 is equal to minus 08. Okay, so now we have our boards. So now the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to create the roll of the dice, an if statement to have the dice roll between 1 and 7 because you know how dice has 6 faces. So let's get started with that. After we get started, I'll explain to you what everything means. So var equals to square, our var square, is equal to 0. Var dice roll is equal to 0 because the dice roll, we're going to start off with 0. And then the while statement, square is less than final square. Then let's create a function. So this is going to be our roll of the dice right here. So dice roll plus equal to value of 1. So it's going to add 1 to every value it lands on. Okay, so let's make an if statement. If dice roll is equal to, double equal to 7, that means the dice roll goes back to 1 and starts over. Okay, so now we're gonna get the move by the roll amount. So move by the rolled amount. Okay, so square plus equal to dice roll let's make an if statement. If square is less than board dot count, then we're gonna have a statement. So we're gonna make a statement. If we're still on the board, move up or down for a snake or ladder. So let me write that by adding a comment. We're still on the board, move up or down for a snake or ladder. Okay, so square plus equal board square there. Okay, so now after when the game is done, we're gonna print game over, put capital. Okay, so you see here we have the board. So when it lands on 1, it moves 1. When it lands on 2, nothing, you move 2. Then you plus 8. So it gives the amount of times for a board. And then the dice roll, it shows here the dice roll. And also shows the dice roll for numbers. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. When it gets to 7, it starts back over. Okay, so this example that we made uses a very simple approach to dice rolling. Instead of generating a random number, it starts with a dice roll value of 0. Each time through the while loop, dice roll is incremented by 1 and then check to see whether it becomes too large. Whether this return value is 7, the dice roll has become too large and it resets to a value of 1. The result is sequence of dice roll value that is always 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, and so on. After rolling the dice, the player moves forward by the dice square. It's possible that the dice roll may have moved the player beyond 25 squares. In that case, the game is over. To cope with the scenario, the code checks that square is less than the board array count property before adding the value stored in the square onto the current square value to move to the player up and down to the ladder. So basically with this example, it gives us a way to create a game out of snakes and ladders by adding the scenario of the board, adding the way we roll the dice with increments from 1 to 6, and giving the count of the board by the space that we're on. So hopefully with this game, it gives you a better understanding of what while loop is. Please subscribe to my video, and thank you for watching.